wish Donald Trump did what he did to Zelensky to Benjamin Netanyahu. Because I'll tell you this, as much as the Ukraine war is a complete waste of money and 1 million, 2 million people have died, far more millions have died because of Israel. Whether it's what's going on in Gaza, what they do in the West Bank, or all the wars that we fought throughout the Middle East over the past 20 to 30 years, it's all for Israel. So Israel's caused us way more reputational damage and lost tax dollars and lost lives than any other country. But we support them unequivocally because people are stupid and they don't realize that these guys have way too much influence and power within our government. I find it absolutely ludicrous that an organization like AIPAC is able to pay our politicians significant amounts of money and be able to dictate how we run our country. Because whether people want to accept it or not, Israel runs our foreign policy. Every war that we've had has been basically done to benefit Israel. Iraq, that didn't benefit us. 1 million people dead. Now Israel gets their oil from Iraq because we destabilized Saddam Hussein. The Kurds hated Saddam Hussein. Now they're able to give the Israelis oil at a good price. Wow. Roughly around 80% of the oil comes from there. So Israel's caused way more damage to the United States than Ukraine. If you're going to say I'm against foreign aid for Ukraine, then you also need to be against foreign aid for Israel because what Israel's doing is way worse.
Yeah. Is there any foreign aid that you agree with?
None.
None at all?
I don't think we should be giving any of these countries money. I think so, because here's the thing, right? There's never going to be peace in Israel until they give the Palestinians a home state. There needs to be a two-state solution, right? Because they always say, oh, we just want peace, we want peace. Well, you need to give the Palestinians sovereignty. You guys took the land. Obviously, they're going to be angry. Violent occupation leads to violent resistance. So we need a two-state solution. People have tried to do this, and they got killed. Yitzhak Rabin famously signed the Oslo Accords with Yasser Arafat back in the early 90s with Clinton. And they killed his ass. Damn. And when they assassinated Yitzhak Rabin, it was a Likud member that killed him and assassinated him. And to this day, Yitzhak Rabin's wife, I think she did a memoir, wrote a book, and she still thinks that Netanyahu killed him because Netanyahu was a huge critic of Yitzhak Rabin. He doesn't want a two-state solution, and he's been caught multiple times admitting this. I remember there's a famous video of him in the kibbutz, and he's speaking in Hebrew, and someone secretly recorded him, and he said, "Yeah, I did everything in my power to damage the Oslo Accords. There's never going to be a two-state solution." Blah blah. You can look it up; it's on YouTube. So, but the reality is, what he's doing by doing that is he's basically ensuring that there's always going to be war, right? He's empowered Hamas plenty of times, but I think he does that as controlled opposition so that he can justify the use of force and justify his ability to rule. So, when it comes to the two-state solution, right? If we really want to make peace, this is my idea how I would do it. If I was president, aka the Fuhrer, right? What I would do is I would say, okay, look, both of you, and I would have like a 5-year plan. We're going to give you guys both foreign aid for a few years. After this, it's done. And what this foreign aid is going to do is it's going to ensure that the Palestinians have a state, the Israelis have a state. But we're not going to fund one side so that they can continue to massacre the other side, because that's what's going on. The reason why Israel doesn't feel a need to make peace is because they don't need to. They have the leverage from a military standpoint, and they have the leverage with U.S. backing. So why are they? So we need to force them to make peace. And we need to have strict regulations if they decide to break the peace agreement, whether it's us sanctioning them, us not giving them any aid, etc. The other thing I would do also is I would make both of them have some type of resource that the other needs. Maybe one party has all the power grids. The other party has all the water. So they need to go ahead and work together and ensure trade to be able to exist. And I think doing something like that with harsh penalties, I think that could potentially work. Now, obviously, that's a very oversimplified strategy. But the point is that give the Palestinians their own state. Obviously, the Israelis have their own state. And then put something in there where we're overseeing it, where if either party was to get into a conflict, they would be significantly punished. It would hurt both of them significantly. That way, they're disincentivized to go to war with each other and kill each other.
That's smart. Doesn't seem like that one's ending anytime soon, too.
Yeah, dude. I mean, it's been going on since even before 1948, before the creation of Israel. We're talking damn near 100 years.
Holy crap.
So that's the only way I see it, man. Because the other thing, too, right? And this benefits both parties because the Palestinians get a state, the Israelis get a state. Finally, the Arab world can accept the Israelis. The Arab world, refuses to acknowledge Israel or recognize them. And that's actually what led to October 7th. They had a meeting with the Saudis. Saudi Arabians are very influential in the region. And what ended up happening was they didn't answer the Palestinian question. So they were going to go to the table, recognize Israel, and they know that if Israel gets recognized by Saudi Arabia, their dream of having a sovereign state is pretty much gone. So they did the invasion, they did October 7th, and then that basically pushed back the peace talks with Saudi Arabia and recognizing it. So because it's wildly unpopular to support Israel. Like obviously the governments kind of do it in a underhanded, but the people of the Arab world hate Israel because of what they're doing to the Palestinians. So if they were to create this two-state solution, it would allow the Arab world to finally start to kind of mend that bridge and begin the slow process of accepting Israel.
Yeah. Do you see the time?
I don't want either party to die.
Right.
As critical as I am of the Israeli government, I don't want any innocent Israelis to die, but their government is setting them up poorly by not giving them their own state. They're going to continue to get resistance and terrorist attacks until they give them their own state, man, and they got to do it. And, it's a travesty when either party dies.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you see the tides turning against Israel?
Yes, a lot of people are waking up, dude. I'll say, and I'll kind of go through this real quick. After October 7th, everyone was backing Israel, right? We had this information. 2,000 Israelis got killed. Hamas went in there and killed a bunch of babies. Like, they got put in ovens. Like, the mass rapes. Like, everyone was like, yeah, like, we're going to go support Israel. This is bullshit. Then information starts coming out. We find out that it was 1,200 that died. Then we find out that about 400 of them were IDF. Then we find out that the Hannibal Directive was activated that day, which the Hannibal Directive, for those that don't know, is a directive that Israel implements where they kill their own citizens and or soldiers to avoid them being kidnapped by Palestinian militias. Why? Because they don't want to go ahead and do a prisoner exchange like they're currently doing now with the ceasefire, where there's an asymmetric trade between Israelis and Palestinians. For one Israeli, they got to give up like 100 Palestinians. So this is a diplomatic and geopolitical nightmare for the Israeli government, and they don't want to deal with it. So the Hannibal Directive became a thing that it would kind of save them headaches later on when it comes to hostage negotiations. And roughly 2 to 3 weeks ago, they just finally admitted this. Yoav Gallant, the defense minister, basically the equivalent of our Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense, he admitted that the Hannibal Directive was activated on that day. Wow. So let's do the math. It went from 2,000 to 1,200. Roughly 400 of those people were IDF. So that's enemy combatants. Fair game, right? Unfortunately. Then we're down to 800. Then we find out that the Hannibal Directive was activated. Well, you look, there's Apache helicopter footage, and then obviously footage of the kibbutzes getting blown up by tanks. That's all IDF. And then when you look at the music festival, all those burned up cars, Hamas doesn't have that capability. They got still like piece of shit World War II weapons. So hundreds of Israelis were killed by the IDF on that day. Now, does that mean that Hamas didn't kill people? They absolutely did, and that's horrible. But we need to be realistic here and understand what were the facts of what actually transpired on that day. And they ended up kidnapping another 200 citizens, roughly 200. So, but Israel, right, sensationalized everything with the beheaded babies and the babies in ovens, which is not true at all, right? They sensationalized everything because they needed something to start the war and to be able to not just start the war, but to go hard at Gaza and level it. So they needed peak outrage, peak anger, and peak emotional stimuli to be able to go ahead and wage the war that they've done now for the past year plus, where they've been indiscriminately bombing and destroying all the buildings in Gaza. And for anybody that might say, oh well, Myron, Israel has the right to defend itself. Okay, cool, fair enough. Well, tell me this then. If Israel has a right to defend itself and Hamas is underground as they claim and they're hiding behind their citizens, why are you bombing all the buildings above ground? That doesn't make sense. They're in tunnels, right? Why are you bombing all these fucking buildings above ground? And then also on top of that, Israel has one of the best militaries in the world because they use a lot of our technology. They have missiles capable of taking out an entire floor of a building while keeping the building intact.
Wow.
They did an attack on Hezbollah up in Lebanon, and what they did was they put bombs in pagers, beepers, walkie-talkies, and other type of equipment. And they blew them up all simultaneously. But the crazy part is they had those bombs and those devices for 10 years.
Jeez.
Imagine that. You intercept the shipment of walkie-talkies and phones and all this other stuff that you know is going to go to your enemy. You put bombs in them in like fucking 2015. And then you let them go to the targets in Lebanon. They're using them for years thinking like, yeah, we're good. Because they were using this, more older technology because they didn't want to be intercepted by Mossad and Unit 8200 because Israel has very good intelligence capabilities of intercepting electronic devices. So they're using this older equipment thinking that they're safe. But unbeknown to them, there's bombs in them. So in September of last year, they detonated like hundreds of them. and they killed a bunch of Hezbollah fighters.
Holy crap.
Then you look at Tehran, Iran, who is their chief op, a guy named Ismail Haniyeh, who's like the chief negotiator for Hamas. They killed him in Iran. How did they do it? They had a bomb that they put in his like he stays at this house. Mm-hmm. They put a bomb there, and it killed him and his bodyguard. And the Mossad had put that there months before.
Damn.
So we're talking about a very sophisticated, intelligent, and powerful military and intelligence operation that they have between Shin Bet, Unit 8200, Mossad, who is like their CIA equivalent. They're very good. So you're telling me that you guys couldn't just run operations and go ahead and kill the leaders of Hamas like you've done for years anyway? You got to fucking bomb all of Gaza and knock the buildings down and kill tens of thousands of kids? Like, I find this interesting too because Donald Trump kind of let this slip at his press conference. Mm. So he's there at the press conference with Benjamin Netanyahu, which, by the way, was the first person to visit the White House in his term, of course. And we know by conservative estimates there were roughly 2.3 million people that lived in Gaza. And then Trump says, hey, we got like 1.7, 1.6, or 1.8 million people that are displaced, and we want to move them to Jordan or Egypt, right? He was talking about getting them out of Gaza and moving them to Jordan and Egypt. Now, while everyone was being outraged about moving them, I looked at the numbers. 1.6, 1.7? Let's even go all the way to 1.8, right? Let's use the most conservative numbers. Let's say 1.8 that are still alive. Well, we know at the lowest, 2 million. We're talking about 200,000 people that are missing. 200,000, right? So, and here's the thing. There's still people under rubble. There's a lot of people missing, right? So no one really knows how many are dead yet. Well over 20,000 kids.
Wow.
Well over 20,000. So we're talking about casualties in the hundreds of thousands now at this point, right? So when Trump let that slip, I was like, oh, shit, right? Like
that's a lot.
That's a lot of people that are dead. And, you know, Israel's been like kind of trying to hide this for a bit, right? They've been bragging, we killed 20,000 Hamas fighters or whatever. Then you look at the ceasefire, when they're bringing the hostages out, I see a lot of niggas with green bandanas and masks. Like, hey, did you guys kill anybody? Like, what the fuck is going on here? And then on top of that, they pretty much, Israeli intelligence has figured out that Hamas membership is stronger now than ever before. More people have joined. Well, for every one person you kill, guess what? You've probably radicalized all of his male family members, right? So people that might have not liked Hamas or not agreed with their political ideology or how they go about things, well, you just killed his brother. What's he going to do? He's going to pick up a fucking AK-47 and wear the green bandana and run around now, right? So, you know, and this is what I mean when I say if you can't kill an ideology. You can't kill they can kill as many of these guys as they want. They're going to continue to resist. They're never going to stop. And the Arab world is never going to accept them. So until Israel understands that Palestinian sovereignty is required for their peace, there's never going to be peace in that area.
Wherever you guys are watching this show, I would truly appreciate it if you follow or subscribe. It helps a lot with the algorithm. It helps us get bigger and better guests, and it helps us grow the team. Truly means a lot. Thank you guys for supporting, and here's the episode.